Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. As I mentioned, I'm Katie Barr. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Workstorm. I've worked in legal technology for the last 20 years. I'm a legal technologist by trade, not an attorney. I joined Workstorm about 2 years ago, and since then, I've been working closely with a lot of law firms and legal operations leaders to talk to them about the challenges they're facing. So, for today's session, just to kind of remind you, what we're going to focusing on is modeling common legal workflows and how you can create structured repeatable processes and put role-based steps and roles in place. We're also going to look at reducing operational friction by automating tasks and assignments, enforcing data completeness, and work to eliminate redundant tasks. And then finally, kind of improving oversight. How do you look at decision making through real-time dashboards and variances, and how you can get a better handle of what's going on when, and budget risks and timelines that might be at risk. Finally, we're going to kind of just look at the best practices and how Workstorm is addressing this. So why this matters right now, I think all of us are aware AI impacts every area of our life. Whether it is in our personal life where we're using it to create some fun images or write emails and drafts, and then also in our professional life. Legal has traditionally been slower to adopt new technology. Shout out to my WordPerfect users out there. I know some people still hold on to that. But what we're seeing is pressure from clients to really start to expect, one, AI to be adopted, and two, to really look at the value that's coming from the AI and the tasks that are being created. So moving away from more of a traditional billable model and trying to focus on more of the impact of what is being done and the results of the case. That kind of leads to the way we work right now. We work in a lot of disjointed systems. We have email, there is DMS, there is billing systems, there are e-discovery systems, there's a plethora of other systems that people work in on a daily basis that don't talk to each other. And it can become a really big administrative burden to translate information from one system to another, leading to that kind of manual data entry that no one wants to do. I can tell you it's one of my least favorite things to do. And when my team does it too, I hear a lot of complaints. And that introduces human error. It introduces really the lack of taking advantage of technology. And it's not a automated process that allows the real legal work to take place. And then finally, the lack of visibility and reporting. When you have a lot of different systems in place, you have a lot of different teams working on specific tasks, and you might have slightly different teams working on different projects. You need visibility into reporting. You need to understand the utilization. You need to understand what's being redlined, what's not being billed. How do we have the greatest impact to our clients so that they will continue to give us business and we can continue to all evolve as a law firm. So how does Workstorm fit into that? Workstorm was started by two finance professionals, and very similar to legal technology, finance has a need for regulated and secure systems. Workstorm was born as a collaboration system, and that's really our backbone. You'll notice I kind of jump around on slides, so I'm on the fourth bullet point here. And what's very unique about Workstorm as a collaboration platform is we enable you to communicate with teams internally and externally. We're private by default, enabling you to set up restrictions and ensure that your ethical walls are not being broken. Then our three pillars that we're focusing on and continuing to evolve into 2026 is first, integration. I mentioned all the systems we work with. Workstorm as a tool does not want to replace your best of breed platforms. We want to help you integrate them and enhance them so that you're not hitting that toggle tax. If anybody's like me, if you get me out of one system and into another system, I might completely forget what I was doing for hours and not be able to come back. We want to give you a space that enables you to work and pulls all those systems together, whether it's a billing system, a DMS system, or an e-discovery tool. Finally, automation. What we are looking to do is build the groundwork so you can start automating. Once you create a kind of plan, a lot of times that lives in spreadsheets. And when you're living in spreadsheets, it's very hard to say, hey, I worked with Acme Company A on one case. Now I have Acme Company A on another case, but it's slightly different. And then, Gorilla Company B has a different litigation, but I want to also kind of use what I have in place for them. We're going to talk about how you can start to automate and Workstorm, and we'll talk a little bit at about the end on where we're going with automated workflows, how we see AI fit into this, and really what our vision is. So without further ado, I am going to jump into the demo, and we will go from there. So I will say, as I mentioned, I'm Katie Barr. There are some people who are still joining. I talk fast. I'm gonna endeavor to do my best to talk slow, but please remember we will be following up with you if there are questions. We'd love to kind of address them with you one-on-one. I am now in the Workstorm platform. And in addition to kind of the key pillars that we're looking at and addressing and what we're bringing to the market, we already have a very grounded set of customization and personalization in the platform. So right now I am in my streams dashboard. So what I'm looking at is the Palm Springs case, and you can see that I have a stream and a dashboard set. I am a super admin, so I do have visibility into a lot of other things that, depending on your user permissions, you will not be able to see. But over here on the left is a list of all my cases that I'm working on. Before I jump into this, I do want to talk about some of our basic functionality that I mentioned before, our collaboration and our integration. As I mentioned, we connect directly to Microsoft. So this is a mirror of my Microsoft inbox. You can see I have a demo folder here, and I have 2 emails, one from myself to me for today. And in this one, I'm asking for somebody to review a draft employment agreement. With our Microsoft integration, we can pull these emails. We also have a Microsoft plugin that can do this. One of the hardest things about change management, and you're going to hear me talk about this a lot, is you need to meet people where they are. If you are trying to get information from attorneys that don't want to adopt a new system, you still need them to inform the system. So that is where the Microsoft plugin comes in. They can work mainly in Outlook. For the purposes of today's demo, so I'm not toggling between systems, I am showing you how email is rendered in Workstorm. So we have this task button. I'm going to say, hey, I want to create a task from an email, whether it is an attorney sending an internal team request or I got something from a client. And I'm going to say this is for my Palm Springs project. It's going to ask me if I want to pull the attachments to this email, which I do. I'm going to hit continue. And you'll notice my task dashboard pops up. We've pulled the subject, draft employment agreement. I'm actually going to change this to be 001 just so I can find it and identify it easier when I show you in the stream. We have pulled all of the text, and if I wanted to, I could add further text here to take notes. This is meant to kind of be a running journal. You can add, delete things. And then down here, I have my widget just saying, hey, these are important things I need to know if you're going to set a task. So what phase does this task fall in? In our case, it's going to fall in phase 1. What type of deliverable? This is going to be a task because I'm asking them to review something, and then work package, which we're going to keep work package 1. I'm going to go ahead because I'm an attorney, and I am just going to say, go ahead, create this task. And it has now been sent to my Palm Springs case. I will come back to that and I will show you that in a second. Down here, we also have calendar. We integrate into your Microsoft calendar just for ease of use. And if you want to, you can see I have shared calendars. If there's email alias calendars, those can be connected. And then also, if you want to connect your Gmail, you can connect that too. Part of our privacy and segregation is if you connect your personal Gmail, and this is also connected to a work Outlook, your organization is not going to have visibility into your Gmail calendar. However, you will be able to see when soccer practice is or when maybe some family activities are that you need to pay attention to. The rest of these I'm going to talk about in a second. I do want to just mention this is all customizable. You can rearrange this. I will get into these when we get into the stream. The last thing that I want to focus on is we have a whole compliance center built in the system. In the compliance center, it's something I'm happy to follow you up with you on. You can have defensible deletion. You can set retention policies on an individual, on a stream, across your whole system, and also legal hold. So this is really important, we find, for heavily regulated industries. I know from my e-discovery roots, this is something that comes up a lot. It is built in the system. It's something that we don't want you to have to worry about. Again, I'm a super admin, so I can see this. Not normal users would be able to see this. One other thing I do want to mention is we have a proprietary messaging and video conferencing. All of these features and functions can be turned off or enabled. It depends on how you are using the system. So keep that in mind as the customization comes in. So I'm going to go back to my streams and I'm going to jump into the Palm Springs project. Here you can see I have a dashboard. I'm going to give myself a little more real estate over here on the left and expand some of this. But I'm going to walk through this dashboard and the tasks and everything associated. So once again, this dashboard is completely customizable. You also have the ability, if there's something you don't want to see on this, you can just simply uncheck it. It will go away. You can reset dashboards and resize it. I'm not going to do that today. It's pretty self-explanatory. But over here on the left is our events. I talked about our Microsoft Calendar integration. Our events are different. They are only focused on the individual projects that you are working on. So in this case, I'm working on my Palm Springs project. I can see all the events that are due today, this week, etc. These are based on the tasks. I can come in. As soon as I open that, the task template is going to pull up and I can actually see, you know what, this one, great news, has already been complete. But just to show you if I am working on this and it's a slide deck preparation, I can attach a slide deck. I can attach other information to this task, and that's going to live there. In addition to that, all of our activity in the system is tracked. This is really important. Think about it. Oftentimes you're hot and heavy in a case, and then it maybe goes dormant for 2 months, 3 years, etc. This gives you the ability to say, oh, shoot, I don't have to go through Pam's emails who left, or I don't have to go through digging my email box, which I'm notoriously bad at foldering. So why did we make that decision? Who made that decision? You can track that all here. And I can even respond. And you can see I just did earlier today, but I'll just say again, final approval, ready for signature. This is just kept complete record contained in the system and ready to go. On the right, we have our files. I mentioned we don't want to replace existing systems. We have a genuine belief that the systems are built for a reason, and your DMS system is really great at what it does. Your e-discovery system is very good at what it does, and we want you to be able to use those systems but start to pull information. So last spring, we introduced modern attachments. And what you can see is over here on the right, I have a bunch of files associated with this project, some in iManage, some in OneDrive, some in a Workstorm repository. We do give you a repository. We recognize sometimes you might need static documents. You don't want to use hyperlinked attachments. However, we are again encouraging you to continue to maintain data in your DMS or your Microsoft system. If I needed to add another file, I can simply come in and I could say, hey, I want to add something from iManage. My iManage folder structure is going to appear. I can say, hey, this email is being asked about. I can go ahead and attach it. Maybe I want to grab 3 emails. They're all here, and I can share those files. Once I share them, they've populated over here in my file tab. You can see them down here. And if I wanted to just see maybe, hey, why is this internal sales presentation living here? Let me take a look. I can see everywhere this lives in the additional permission settings Workstorm sets. We are not going to break any of your existing permission settings, but these live here so that you can have them. You could also say if somebody's asking about this, you can type here and you can add this to a task, a channel, which is a group message, or another stream. But if I wanted to take it away from the Palm Springs project right now, I simply can hit delete. Actually, I'm not going to take it away from that. I'm going to take it away from the STR. I'm going to hit delete. And when I save that, it has now been removed from wherever those file permissions are. Down here, we have our tasks. So this is more of an M&A type workflow, more of a structured workflow. And on tasks, there's a few things I want to point out. First, each one of these 3 different workflows and projects I'm going to walk you through have different custom fields. This custom field has phases, it has work packages, type of activity, etc. I can come in and I can say, hey, I want to rearrange this. I want to see what the phase is first. I want to see work package second, and maybe assignee, and I can dynamically update what I'm working on in the system. This is my own personal view. It is not going to reflect another team member's view. Everybody has the ability to change and set this up how they work. You can see here, I have my draft 001 employment agreement that I just said, and very quickly I can see this was unassigned. There's no task. I, as an admin for this, would have gotten a notification that I silenced so you didn't see. I can come in and I can say draft employment. I can make some edits, say, hey, this needs to be reviewed. I'm going to keep it in my work packages, but you know what? I need to add an assignee field to this. I'm going to make that required. And when I go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and click assignee, and it's going to give me the ability. I'm going to go ahead and assign this to Anatoly. And there we go. It's been assigned. As soon as I update this task, Anatoly will get a notification that this has been assigned. In addition to that, you can see all the notes that have taken place. And then again, just to show you files that were pulled over with this, and then all of the activity that has taken place across this task. When you're working on projects like this, there's a lot of redundant information that needs to come in. And I'm going to talk about this a little more with our e-discovery workflow. But what I want to show you here is how you can take advantage of it with our templates in this workflow. So first, I can come in and I can say, hey, I have a new task. I have my required fields. It fills out blank. I actually want to add this to template 5. And if there's any files associated, I want to apply it. Very quickly, I can dynamically update this to template 5. I can assign this out. I can create the task, but it goes to my template library instead of every time trying to figure out what custom fields are important. I'm not going to save the changes for this. I do want to show you this more in the e-discovery area. One thing I also want to show you is the ability on tasks. You can click into tasks and I can come in and say, hey, where am I overdue? What is not started? What's in progress? Or add any filters. So maybe I want to see something where the owner of a certain type of task or created date is, or assignee, any of those things. I could say, hey, show me where the owners are on Burgundy. It's going to segregate those tasks out and showed me that information. Finally, one of the things we recognize with projects like this is you need the ability to report. Reporting is only as good as the information provided. So as I mentioned, each of these workflows I'm showing you have different custom fields and therefore different reporting. Reporting can exist within a project, across multiple projects, or across your whole ecosystem. I'm going to show you our V1 right now that is within projects, but I just want you to keep in mind how this is evolving across other as we go and build out more dynamic reports. But before that, I do want to just show you chats down here. I got a little bit of ahead of myself. I mentioned our proprietary messaging. This system is meant so you can communicate with people internally and externally. So I have a bunch of different channels set up. If there was an external member, there would be an orange globe here, but it's just a great way to chat about the case. Maybe you have contract reviewers working on it, or you want to give the partner information, or you want to have a communication with the vendor you're working on. That can all live here. It's containerized and only lives within this project. And again, is private by default. So only the people in the chat, if they share a file, it will pin up to the files up here, but it's only going to be visible to them. I want you to remember that. And as we follow up, if anybody's interested, I'm happy to show you with a dual screen share what it looks like from my super admin point of view, and then as a basic user point of view from there. Finally, reporting. As I mentioned, any of the custom fields you are able to report on. And so you can build a whole plethora of different reports. Here's one's assignee by task. Maybe I want to get an idea of utilization across the team. I can see Ron has a lot of unstarted tasks. Why? Is he busy working on one, or is he on vacation? Do we need to reallocate? Not only that, he has about double of what everybody else. So very quickly, I can see and identify information that might need to take a further look. I can also see that by phase. What's due on a milestone? What's due on a task? Where are my deliverables living in my work packages? How am I doing with the time estimated by the group versus my time spent on this project? Any chart can be built. We offer a variety of different ones. And as you come in and say, hey, I want a donut or a bar chart or stack bar chart, you can start dynamically building this, and this will address it. And then again, any of the custom fields. Maybe I just want to build this on work packages and see a status or assignee. Any of the custom fields in the system, you can build a chart and add additional filters. I'm not going to do that here today, but just to give you an example of how we're approaching this. Again, one of our biggest focuses is to continue to add more dynamic ways for reporting. And that's really going to tie into our integration strategy and enable you to pull information in. Not only, though, can you do reporting by metrics, I can also start creating formulas and do reporting by formulas, use existing formulas I've already done. And these are going to continue to get more and more complex as we go. Moving on, mentioned we have a diverse group of people. I'm going to go to an e-discovery workflow very quickly. This e-discovery workflow, I'm not going to walk through the widgets like we did, but I do want to show you a couple things, mainly a template library, and point out the differences in tasks. So here you can see I have a very simple chart. I might want to come in and say, hey, I also want to add billing attorney to this. Maybe I want to see data size. And I'm going to leave that for now. Any of the custom fields, again, can be pulled. You can sort on any of this. But what I want to show you, and I think is really critical, especially for e-discovery teams, you not only as a law firm ecosystem diverse, you work with that system, you work with your vendors, you work with clients, and you work with so many different types of data, and it can be really difficult. But a lot of the time, you have the same templates and forms that you need to work through. So here, I might want to create a task, and I'm going to call this processing request. If I could spell. But what I'm going to do before I can see, I kind of have a blank slate here, unlike the other ones. I'm going to go to my template library, and I am going to say, hey, I need my processing request form. Actually, I'm going to do a production processing form because that's just going to be easier for me. So I'm going to pull my production processing form. It's going to ask if I want to pull descriptions, assignees, watchers, etc. I do, because for e-discovery, I have the same team working, and it's a next man up strategy. So new requests are constantly coming in like this. I need somebody to raise their hand and say, I got this. And I'm also going to say I want to pull files. So when I apply that, it's going to pull up my processing request template. And it's going to then have a bunch of other fields in here. So when you can see this is unassigned, I can really quickly assign this to Ron Burgundy. And then I'm going to say this is due maybe tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Sorry, Ron, it might be a long day for you. I'm going to say this is a high priority, and then it's going to ask me a series of production volume, totals, etc. This is where integration is really important. What we are building and hoping to build by working with e-discovery companies is giving the ability for some of this information to pull automatically. I have restrictions in place, and just to show you, if I try to update this task, it's going to say, hey, you didn't put your production volume in here. It's not going to allow me to do that. But what it is going to allow me to do then is go down and fill out some of this information. If we have a standard processing request type of field, it's going to allow me, it's going to have that document attached. The attorneys can attach something different, and I can kind of start pulling information and making decisions on, hey, I raised my hand, here's what we're going to do, and I can update that task. I'm not going to save this because clearly for this one, I have a lot of required fields and I don't want to go through that today. But what I did want to show you is just, again, the library of, hey, this is a relativity service request. Go ahead and apply it. Maybe what I want to see is what kind of request. It's a clawback request. My due date's a little in the past because I created this. This is going to be due Friday. And then I can modify it just with some information that's important for the team. Clawback needed ASAP. Again, this is meant to be customizable to work with your team. It's also meant to give you the ability to say, hey, what files have been shared? Oh, look, there's nothing attached to this. Let me go to my OneDrive. Let me go grab this Workstorm, and I'm gonna attach this file because I need this to live here. And then let me see. All of that activity that has been taking place is logged and tracked. Again, so if I want to come in, I want to search, why did we change this from global dedupe to within custodian dedupe? You have the ability to address that. Not only can you do templates on the task level, you can also do them on the stream level. And this is really important. Think about the e-discovery use case, or even the M&A use case, where you're following a similar process every time, which is in fact the case for a lot of clients. You might have a certain client will call Opalite, and Opalite has a funky type of data. So you want to make sure that when you're doing that data collection or you're looking at things, you're taking that into account. So you might want to set up a stream similar to this e-discovery stream that says, hey, here's our normal e-discovery process. Here's our templates we use, but we want to create some custom templates for Opalite. If anybody else is a Taylor Swift fan, you probably get the reference on this. But I can come in and I can say, I want to copy this stream. It's going to ask, do you want to copy the files? Do you want to copy the screen description, the assignees, the watchers? I'm going to say I want to copy the files, actually. I do want to bring them over. I have a choice. I don't have to. And I'm going to hit copy. You can see I'm now the stream administrator for eDiscovery 143. It has popped up here on my left. Since I am a super admin, I do have to come in and I do have to enable this. So I'm going to enable this stream. I can go to the stream, close this out, and you can see it looks very similar. My files came over, my basic tasks came over, but not my chats and none of my assignees. So now I can start to assign this out to new team members. I can maybe make modifications to the custom fields and personalize this a little more. And in fact, if I want to change this and call it the Opalite stream, e-discovery stream, ignore all my terrible spelling. I think you guys understand on this, but I know we're not going to change that. I can hit save. It's been updated, and there it is. It's up here under the Opalite stream. Finally, what I want to show you is a different way of using this system. So just to remind you, we talked kind of about an M&A, which is a process that had different phases, different work products in the phases, and different types of deliverables. And whether on the buy side, the sell side for that, you can modify it and keep going. Traditionally, we're seeing those managed through a spreadsheet. The e-discovery workflow tends to be a lot of different requests coming for projects. You can manage it in one workflow, or you can break out e-discovery workflows for different cases as well. However, we're getting a lot of requests to start looking at global kind of repositories. What's going on? How many cases in this case, like, have I had? This is a historical knowledge of 21 cases that the firms worked on. And if I come in, you can see all of the custom fields with us in arbitration, reliance, what happened, what district we're in, what judge, who was our opposing counsel, who's our managing attorney here, who's our paralegal. A ton of very valuable information that often lives in people's heads. With this, what you can do is I can come in and I can say, hey, I want to see when I was in front of, I have a new case. I want to see when I was in front of Judge Barr. If you notice, I just gave myself a promotion. Thank you very much. I am now a judge. I can quickly filter, see when I was in front of Judge Barr. I can get any of the information associated. If there are files or briefs attached to that, that will live here, and I can come down and I can be like, okay, who is the managing attorney? It's Tara Valentine, and the paralegal was Tina Smith. I'm going to give them a call. I want to understand what their experience was in front of this judge. Again, this is really meant to show you the flexibility of this system. And I mentioned, and I just kind of copied templates. Where we're going and what we're focusing on now is building out more robust workflows that say, hey, you have these series of tasks, you have these series of subtasks that you need to put in order, very similar to my M&A workflow that I walked through. Let us help you do that and put checks and balances in place. And then our theory and our philosophy, which I'm happy to talk to you about a little more later, is firms have made a decision on AI. Most firms have brought 3 to 6 different AI platforms, and we believe that you should have the ability to plug your AI into our platform as a part of a task, whether it's to manually check something, reassign it, build workflows, and then you're retaining that knowledge rather than looking at a system that has AI built in and you're then tied to that system with AI. So I'm happy to talk to you a little bit more about that as we go forward. But the final thing to show you as we go forward. So kind of talk to you a little bit about where we're going with AI. I'd love to dive in on a further basis with our workflows and how we're really building these out to be autonomous and manual depending on your needs, and then our integration strategies. We have such a diverse group of people, so I'm sure there's a lot of opinions on this. My team will be following up with you. And once again, I'm Katie Barr. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Workstorm. Thank you for your time today.